Stand up, NFL fans. Week 3 of the NFL season about set to get underway. Of course, we're all Giants, or a lot of the subscribers on my channels are Giants fans. So we'll have to wait an extra day on Monday Night Football. But today we're going to go over all the games for the week, of course, excluding the Thursday night game, being that game already took place. But I'm looking forward to going over the 15 remaining games on the schedule. As I've done now for week 2, I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to have a different subscriber on the channel each and every week to go up against me head-to-head for the weekly picks against the spread. I'm 1-0. So, Nikki, you better bring it today. I didn't have a great week last week. It was kind of like the New York Giants. I had a sloppy win, but I found a way to get a victory. I think I went 7-9 last week, but the guy went up against Wolves. He struggled mightily. I think he had 3 or 4 picks right. So I was able to get by 1-0. If you beat me, you get a fitted hat. And I'm going to say this right now, Nikki. If I have a winning streak of 3 or 4 and I get another subscriber on here, I'm going to up the prize. We're going to up it to like a jersey. So we'll see if Nikki can knock me off this week. He did his homework. Been on the channel before. Great guy. What's going on, Nikki? Thanks for popping on.
I'm coming for you, Chris. I got it this week. I got it on lock. I think I'm good.
All right. You're confident, man. You're confident. But before we recap week number 2, there was definitely some surprises throughout the league. We'll jump into that. Just want to get into the official sponsor of the video. I just want to say thank you to Prize Picks. If you guys are interested, there's a deposit match of up to 100%. You're going to use the promo code ENTERTAINER. If one of my mods could drop the link in the chat below, I'd appreciate it. I know Dire Giants fan always has that. Thank you so much for all the support you always show on the channel. But you could join. You do the promo code. You get 100% deposit match. It's easy to download on your phone, and you can access it via the website. It's simple. Basically, what Prize Picks is, it's prop picks. If you think Derek Carr's going over or under 260.5 yards, Ryan Tannehill, Joe Burrow, you get the deal. It's like fantasy football, statistically driven. They have rushing yards, passing yards, receiving touchdowns, passing touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, field goals made, total team sacks. They got baseball. They got basketball. So join at prizepicks.com. Like I said, you join the app. It's easy to go. But wanted to get into the official sponsor of the video and say thank you to them. And I'm going to pull up Mash Dashy. He says, Bengals need a win badly tomorrow. And, Nikki, that is going to turn me to the week 2 games. Let's go over that because the Bengals have been one of the biggest surprises so far on the bad side in the NFL. We're going to jump into that right now. Let's pull up some of the scores, Nikki, and let's go over one by one of, what we took out of week number 2 from the NFL. Let's dive right into it, and we're going to get to your Bengals game because we're going up against a team that beat you last week, Dashy. We start with Thursday night, Kansas City Chiefs versus the Chargers. It's about what I expected, Nikki. Pretty high-scoring game. Pretty competitive game. I think those are 2 of the top 2 or 3 teams from within the AFC conference. Most people have one of those 2 teams. Well, the Chiefs, maybe some people feel like took a little bit of a step back, but so far after 2 weeks, I don't think you could feel that way. They look dominant week 1. They take care of business against the Chargers week 2, and Mahomes looks like he hasn't missed a beat. Then the Giants. I mean, we got the W. It was sloppy, but we got the win.
A win's a win. A win's a
win. And then that turns at me, Nikki, to the biggest shocker of week number 2. The New York Jets on the road went to Cleveland after Cleveland looked pretty impressive week 1 and knocked off the Browns 31-30.
Oh, my God, yeah. That game was so much fun to watch. If you didn't watch that, go watch the highlights. It's just you're looking at the clock. There's 90 seconds left, and you're telling them they got to put up 14 points in 90 seconds. There's no way. They were literally at ESPN had them at a 1% win probability, and they pulled it off. That's probably the biggest win of any NFL team probability-wise in the past decade. So that was a lot of fun to watch.
I'm going to tell you right now, the Jets made me look like a fool. We do 3 locks on this for anybody that's tuning in for the first time. We make every pick against the spread. Our 3 favorite games count as 2. That was one of my 3 locks. I had the Browns, I think, -6.5 or -7 is one of my 3 locks. They made me look like a fool. Then you got the Lions. And I'm not surprised the Lions won. I think I picked the Lions. They were getting like 2 points. But I am surprised how many points this team continues to put up. They put up 36 points against the Commanders. They put up 35 points week 1 against the Eagles. So they've been really impressive, Nikki, at least offensively through the first 2 weeks.
Jared Goff back to his Pro Bowl form. That's it.
He's looked good, man. He's definitely looked impressive. Tom Brady and the Bucs beat the Saints for the first time, I think, since he's been a Buc. He was 0-4 going up against the New Orleans Saints. Yeah. And they look fairly impressive. They were able to put up 20 points on the road. All of it came in the second half, though. They were scoreless in the first half.
Marshawn Lattimore getting ejected. That's what did it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. New England, narrow win against the Steelers. That's about what I expected. I thought it'd be a 3-point either way. The Jaguars, and you gave me an interesting stat, which I didn't realize before. And I know, historically speaking, the Jaguars have really had the Colts number. They have shut out the Colts. What did you tell me, Nikki? 3 times since 2018?
It was 18 or 19, one of the two. But yeah, that's their third shutout of the Colts at home.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I'm still surprised by that. I didn't think they were going to beat the Colts 24-0. And thus far this year, Nikki, I'm curious to get your opinion. Who's the most disappointing team? Is it the Bengals or is it the Colts? Because for me, those are the two. For me, at least, those are the two most disappointing teams in the NFL so far.
I would say the Bengals more than the Colts, but for me, it's the Broncos more than any other team right now.
That's a good call too. We were talking about them too pre-stream. They've also, of course, losing to the Seahawks and a narrow win last week. Yeah, they're up there as well. Good call.
The Bengals, I think, the most disappointing part of the whole Bengals situation is, first of all, I think that their defense is playing okay. I thought it was going to be a lot better, especially drafting Dax Hill to pair next to, oh my gosh, what's his name? Jesse Bates. But other than that, their offensive line, I mean, they spent, like $70+ million on the offensive line, getting Kappa and Lyle Collins, and the other one's escaping me right now. But I will say it's not all the offensive line's fault. I believe Joe Burrow is number 2 in sacks caused by the quarterback right now.
I read that on Twitter this week. Yep, you hit it on the head. He's number 2 in terms of quarter. I don't know how they measure that, but in terms of stats, in terms of sacks that the quarterback's responsible for, he has the second highest total. And he's always had that reputation, even going back to college at LSU. Yeah. So I did think, Nikki, the offensive line for the Bengals would struggle at the beginning of the year. But I do think it'll improve. But it's much like the Giants. They have more talent. Don't get it twisted. They added a lot more talent to their line than we did. But much like the Giants, you have a lot of new pieces on that line, and I think it will take them a few more weeks really to get used to playing with one another.
Exactly.
Then you got the Dolphins. What a Tua Tagovailoa, by the way. You want to talk about surprises in the NFL this year? Tua Tagovailoa.
Roll Tide, baby. Roll Tide.
And maybe Josh Allen passed him. I don't know for sure. I know he tied him in the touchdowns. But right now, Tua Tagovailoa, I believe, has the most passing yards in the NFL. And he has the most passing touchdowns.
Yep. Number 1 is Tua. Number 2 is Jalen Hurts. And total yards. Number 2 is Jalen Hurts. But I believe Joe Flacco is number 3 in passing right now.
That's crazy. But what a comeback, man. They scored 28 points in the fourth quarter on the road. And suddenly the Dolphins are off to a fresh 2-0 start with their new head coach.
I love it. I love Mike McDaniel. I loved his opening interview. He just seems like such a fun guy. I think he's a great play caller. And I think it's probably pretty difficult as a defensive coordinator to plan for 2 guys that run sub 4.3. So I really wouldn't know how to get in there.
Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I mean, my God, man, that's weaponry. Yeah. I get a little jealous having Sills and Richie James as our top 2 pass catchers the first 2 weeks. So
I will say Sterling Shepard is. I know people think he's a good receiver.
No, he's solid.
I think he's more than solid because. Up until his injury that he had last year in the early portion of the season, I believe that he was averaging about 100 yards and like 0.7 touchdowns a game for like a 7-game stretch there.
Well, he caught the big touchdown week 1 last year. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean he was going off for like a 6 or 7 game stretch between 2020 and 2021. So he was really killing it there, and I'm happy to see him back so fast from the Achilles injury. I mean, he's been our best receiver, and he's the one literally coming off an Achilles injury he suffered in the last game of the year. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, I'm happy for Shep, and hopefully he keeps it up. By the way, thank you to everybody for being here. I will be live tonight with Bad Dog as well for the Talk of Giants show, so hopefully some of y'all will come by for that. But thank you guys for being here, all the support you guys always show.
I'll be there, Chris. Absolutely.
I know you will, Nikki. Next game up is going to be the Rams and the Falcons. The Rams at home. The score maybe doesn't really indicate the level, how this game really went. The Rams were up 21-3 at halftime. They ended up only winning by 4. But going into the fourth quarter, they were up 28-10. So they had an 18-point lead going into the fourth. But the Falcons made a game of it late in the game.
Yeah, they did. And the Falcons either need to choke a lead away or try to have another team choke a lead away. They can't just have like a solid back and forth game, change of score, that kind of thing. There needs to be a huge point disparity apparently for that team. I really don't understand it.
Yeah. And the Niners with Garoppolo coming in, Trey Lance going down, really took care of business against the Seahawks. They won by 20, 27-7. Really interested in their game this week. We'll get into it during the picks, but really interested in that one. Cowboys and the Bengals, really impressive effort by the defense. I hate to say it as a Giants fan, but Micah Parsons looks like a beast. They were able to limit to Joe Burrow, I think, to under 200 yards passing. So Cowboys did a really good job in that game, and that's a game I did not expect them to win, even though they were at home. So
did you see what Bad Dog said last night when he was streaming with Law Nation? He goes, he obviously the stuff about everyone comparing Micah to LT is driving him nuts, but he said, I don't only think that the Giants should have 56 retired, which it is. He says, I think the whole NFL should have 56 retired. And how about you start comparing Micah to guys like DeMarcus Ware and Charles Haley before you start comparing him to LT? Compare him to guys on your own team.
I agree. I mean, the LT comparison.
It was beautifully put.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You said this is your most disappointing team so far this year. The Broncos, of course. You could argue, Nikki, at least going into the year in terms of preseason expectations, that the Broncos may have went up against the two weakest teams in the NFL the first 2 weeks. They played the Seahawks with Geno Smith starting at quarterback. They lost on the road. Should have won. I mean, they fumbled it twice on the 1 yard line, but regardless, they lost.
Yeah.
And then they barely beat the Houston Texans, and they had to put up 10 points in the fourth quarter to do it 16-9. Do you have concerns with Russell Wilson and the Denver offense this year, or do you think maybe they're getting the kinks out?
I think that they're getting the kinks out. I did expect them to struggle somewhat going into the year. Obviously, Russ needs to build a rapport with guys like Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Alberto, all those dudes. But you're going against those teams in the first 2 weeks, and that's all you muster up in both those games. I mean, it's really disappointing. I expected them to struggle, but struggle against teams like the Chargers or something where they can only put up 14 or 17, not against teams like the Texans and the Seahawks. Like the Seahawks are supposed to have a garbage defense, and they made Russell Wilson look pedestrian. So that's the concern. Also, I mean, he is still working back from that injury. I guess you could say if you're trying to really be an optimist about it. I think he'll get going. But yeah, still really disappointing. And also with the defense being so dominant, you got to figure they're giving them good field position, and that's all they can muster up. It's just nothing looking right with the offense there.
Yeah, especially based off the opponents they've played.
Yeah.
I mean, and they play in the AFC West, so it's going to get a lot harder to their schedule. Yeah. So
Geno looked more like Russell Wilson than Russell Wilson week 1. I mean, that was ridiculous. I mean, I was watching it.
No, how do you kick that 64-yard? That made no sense to me.
And he got to practice one, and he missed it horribly, and they still went with it again.
It made no sense. One of the most mind-boggling decisions I've ever seen a coach make. Yeah. Cardinals, Raiders. The Raiders now, and I think they choked this game away at the end. The Cardinals put up 16 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Cardinals made a great comeback. Kyler Murray wins it in overtime. But the Raiders, who were a team a lot of people were super high on going into the year, suddenly is starting off with an 0-2 start as they drop a game home against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think that the Raiders, their issue right now is they need guys like Chandler Jones to be stepping up, who he really hasn't been getting going at all in the first 2 weeks, and they're relying on him. I mean, they're trying to do on both sides of the ball what teams in their division do. They went out and got Devontae Adams to compete with a Tyreek Hill who's no longer there, but that was the thought process. They went out and they got Chandler Jones because of a team like the Chargers, who have both Bosa and Mack right now. So they're looking for Max Crosby and Chandler Jones to get after it, and that's what their defense is relying on right now. Especially, I mean, if you're looking at what Patrick Graham did for us on defense, but he really wanted the guys that were on the line to get home and drop everyone else in coverage. They really need that to happen more often, and it hasn't gotten going yet. I think that's their main issue right now.
Yeah, and again, much like the last team we talked about, they play in a tough division, so they better get it going quick. Packers, not much to talk about there. Bounce back. They lose week 1. They bounce back, beat a team they're supposed to beat pretty handily at home. The Bills just look super dominant. Josh Allen.
About that Bears game, sorry to interrupt you. About that Bears game, what was it? Justin Fields had 11 attempts. Yeah.
70 yards in that game.
Yeah, it was literally 11 passing attempts, 18 the week before. He's 29 attempts on the year. It's ridiculous.
7 for 11 for 70 yards and a pick.
Unbelievable. I don't know, man. I don't know. And Justin Fields was supposed to have in my opinion, he had the second strongest arm in that class. Let him throw it 11 times. I don't know what that tells you more.
He's in bad shape there. He's in bad shape.
And we get him next week, so I'm licking my chops right now, but it's still.
Yeah, I think we'll take care of the Bears, but we'll see. But I like that matchup like you. Then the Bills just dominate. I had Josh Allen as the MVP preseason, and I still have that. And he looked super great the first week. He looked just as good the second week. I know a lot of Giants fans looked at that game and they said, well, maybe that Titans game doesn't mean so much now, but it is the Bills. I still think the Titans are at least a decent team, but I just think Buffalo is that good. They
I
blew
just want to take the moment and opportunity to point something out about the Bills and Josh Allen.
Yeah.
So a lot of people who, when we're discussing quarterback prospects, and us as a team and a fan base, we will be this offseason, please don't go and look at completion percentage and stats and stuff like that when wanting to see what quarterback you want. For a guy like Anthony Richardson, the stats aren't going to be that good. If he continues on this trajectory, he might even be a first rounder, but I digress.
I'm going to be honest with you, Anthony Richardson. If he continues on this trajectory, he's staying in college.
Oh, absolutely. So my point being, Josh Allen coming out his last year in college, I believe he completed around 53% of his passes and threw for 1,700 yards on the season. So if you went and looked at something like that, you'd be like, how the hell is this guy going to be, a first round, let alone top 10 pick in the draft? It's really the traits that teams look for. So please just be mindful of that. If we do end up drafting a guy like a Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, those guys are much more traits based than what they've done on the field.
Of course, stats to me, especially at the quarterback position in college football, mean next to nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like CJ Stroud, by the way. I think he's really good, but he plays in a very friendly offensive system. Dwayne Haskins threw 50 touchdowns in that same system. So, you can't go but based off of stats, and the scouts won't. Joe Shane will not. He's going to base these prospects off their talent and their upside and what he thinks he could get out of them.
Bryce Young is that man. Oh my gosh, do I love me some Bryce Young.
Bryce Young's good, man.
What he did in that national championship game last year, any other quarterback in college football would have thrown 7 interceptions against that Georgia defense. After Jamison Williams went down, the fact that he only threw 1 pick, which unfortunately cost them the game, but what he was doing in that game with the scrub receivers he was playing with was against that defense was unbelievable. I mean, really go back and watch that game, guys.
I remember watching the game. I was impressed.
Unbelievable. I know he didn't put up the numbers, but the fact that he wasn't turning the ball over at all was ridiculous. I mean, it was really something special.
Eagles, hate them, but they look really good. I thought they'd be good going into the year. The Vikings defense, though, I don't know how much I want to read into this because the Vikings defense looked pitiful in that game. Yeah. Don't get it twisted. Jalen Hurts is good. The offense looks good. They got a great offensive line. They got a great rushing attack. A.J. Brown looks great in the offense. But the Vikings defense, I mean, these wide receivers were running open by 10 yards. And I was pretty high in the Vikings going into the year. I don't know how high I am on them right now based off of that performance. What I will say out of that game, though, that really impressed me about the Eagles, I know the offensive stats were definitely eye-opening, but like I said, the Vikings defense didn't look good. It was the Eagles defense in that game that really impressed me. Cousins looked lost, but the Eagles did a really good job at getting pressure, and they were great in coverage. They had a number of pass breakups. Just a really good performance by the Eagles. I hate to say it as a Giants fan, but they look good.
Interesting note, Nakobe Dean didn't play a single snap that game, I believe. But I think what the issue is for the Vikings is their secondary is incredibly young and inexperienced. They have guys like Cam Dantzler who they're relying on to develop, and along with Harrison Smith went down with a concussion, and then they drafted Lewis Seen in the first round this year. I mean, it's a rookie end of the first round pick safety. So that's their issue. And honestly, thinking about that might be affecting what my pick might be for that game, but we'll see when we get there, I guess.
Let's jump into it, guys. Thank you to everybody for being here. Going to say hello to a couple people in here. Dire Giants fan, Jesse Montes. I saw Bill was in here. Gian's in here. Thank you guys for being the best supporters on YouTube. Hopefully I see a lot of you guys over there tonight with Bad Dog coming on the channel. Mets in the chat, LA Lou in the chat, Afghanistan in the chat, Mind-boggling in the chat. We're just trying to do more of a show format. Kansas, man, thanks for being here. Max Webster, thank you so much for being here. We're doing Against the Spread, Max. Against the Spread. By the way, if anybody is interested in coming in future weeks, I'm doing this against subscribers. So Nikki's going to be the second guy. I didn't do this week 1. So I came up with the idea after week 1. I'm like, you know what? Make it more interactive. Have some fun. Have some subscribers on the channel. Nikki's doing week 3 rather, second week on doing this on my channel. If he wins, he gets a fitted hat. I said at the top of the stream, if I beat 3 guys in a row, every time I beat 3 of you guys in a row, I'm going to up the prize. It'll be a jersey. But so if you're watching, maybe you're rooting against
me. Careful, Chris. You might be out some big bucks, man.
But we'll see. Nikki's confident. He thinks he's going to get a fitted hat this week.
If YouTube Yoda gives me a challenge, I'm going to rise to the occasion.
Let's do it, man. I'm looking forward to it. Without further ado, let's jump into the first game of the week. Indianapolis Colts, home. It's in Indy. Going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, Nikki, are favored by 5.5. The over-under in that game is 50.5. So they're expecting a pretty high-scoring game. in Indianapolis in the Dome. What's your take on this game?
Okay, so I definitely think that the Colts can run on the Chiefs. That's not lost on me. However, with Michael Pittman coming back off an injury, he missed last week. Not really sure if he's going to be on a pitch count whatsoever. Hope not, because he's on the fantasy team. But that's the part that scares me. Matt Ryan has thrown 1 touchdown this year. Also, that's like you're not going to be able to just keep up with the Chiefs and the points category if Matt Ryan is throwing half a touchdown per game, basically, as he has been. So I'm actually going to take the Chiefs to cover in this one.
All right, 1 game down, 1 game. We agree. I'm gonna agree with you on this one as well. I like the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs to cover the 5.5. The Colts were a team I was pretty high on going into the year. I had them winning the AFC South. It's still early. Maybe they're working out the kinks. Matt Ryan, his first year there, they get shut out. Like you said, that's been a pattern. The Jaguars have done a good job against them in recent years. So maybe the Colts do bounce back. Maybe they're a team that takes 3 or 4 weeks to really hit their stride. But the Kansas City Chiefs, to me, have looked ultra impressive the first 2 weeks. It looks like Pat Mahomes has not missed a beat. And I think that continues. I respect the Colts defense. I think they have a good defense, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think Mahomes is going to put up points. I think the Chiefs are going to cover that spread. I won't say easily. I could see the Colts keeping it relatively close. But in the end, I got to go with the hot hand. I got to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. So we're in agreement. I'll lay the 5.5. I'll take the Chiefs on the road.
I will say that it actually, which doesn't normally matter, but I think it matters who gets the ball first in that game. I think that if the Colts get the ball first and they can run and not play from behind, I do think they have a shot, though. But I am going with the Chiefs.
It's going to, like you said, if they have any shot, Jonathan Taylor's going to have a huge day. They're going to have to control the clock at home.
Yep.
Next up, we've got the Ravens going to New England. The Patriots are getting 2.5 at home, coming off who did they beat last week? They had the Steelers. They beat 17-14 last week.
Disgusting game.
Disgusting game indeed. The Ravens looked really impressive until the fourth quarter, and then they choked away that big lead against the Miami Dolphins. But Lamar Jackson's off to a hot start this year. What's your take on this one?
So I've been actually back and forth on this one a lot. Part of me is like, oh, Belichick, that defense, he's not going to let Lamar do X, Y, and Z to him. If my thought process is if Mitch Trubisky can get 14 points off of Belichick and Lamar Jackson, multiply that by 3. I'm taking in the Ravens to cover.
Yeah, and I feel I could be wrong on this. I didn't have a chance to really look into the history of Belichick going up against Lamar Jackson in the past, but for some reason I feel like he's done a pretty good job against him in the past. I could be wrong on that, but I'm in agreement with you. I'm not a big believer in the Patriots this year. I know last week they beat the Steelers narrowly. They won by 3. All that being said, I'm not a big believer in Mac Jones. TJ Watt was out for that game, of course, the most important player on that Steelers defense, and they still nearly lost. Patriots didn't look very good week 1, and I think the Ravens are good. I think they choked away a lead last week, but I still think they're good. They're good offensively. I think they'll bounce back. I think they'll cover the 2.5. So far, Nikki and me, last week, I disagreed with my guess the first 2 weeks. So far, Nikki and me are lockstep through the first 2 picks. We'll see if we have some more disagreements as it gets going, but so far, we both agree on the first 2 games. I'll take the Ravens as well. I'll lay the 2.5 points. Give me Baltimore against the New England Patriots. Next up, we've got the Miami Dolphins. They're home for this one. The Bills traveling to Miami. Divisional game. 5-point spread. Buffalo favored by 5. The Bills, of course, just destroyed the Titans. But Miami's look good as well. You got 2 unbeaten teams here. Divisional. They know each other fairly well. What's your take on this one?
All right. So what does play a factor somewhat is the fact that Micah Hyde just went on IR for Buffalo.
He's out for the year.
Yep. That really stinks. I love Micah. But beyond that point, normally when you see a team beat another team as good as the Rams, like the Bills did week 1, you see a little bit of a drop back week 2. No, they put their foot on the gas and they beat the Titans even worse. So that is something that tells me that wasn't a fluky thing, or the Rams are just not, they were not in it mentally. I mean, the Bills are that good. I mean, they're everyone and their mother's Super Bowl pick this year. So I do think the Bills are that good. Miami, I also think, is a very good team. I easily double-digit wins for me this year. But again, when a team comes off of an emotional victory like that the week before, something like that, normally they kind of fall off. So I am actually going to take the Bills to cover again.
I want to disagree with you on a pick to make it interesting. I can't do it. I cannot pick against the Buffalo Bills. I cannot pick against the Buffalo Bills until such time I see them a little bit back to the pack. And it's a divisional game. I do have a lot of respect for Miami. I really do. And I love the fight that they had last week coming back. Would I be shocked if they cover this spread? No. I could see them losing by 3 or 4. I definitely think Buffalo's going to win the game. But that Buffalo offense to me is just too high-powered. And what's really impressed me about Buffalo so much this year, Nikki, of course, Josh Allen. You know that if you watch my channel, I've ruled over Josh Allen since
Oh my gosh, 3 years. You were on him.
I've ruled over Josh Allen since he came in the league. So Josh Allen is doing exactly what I've expected him to do. But what's impressed me so much about this Bills team is the defensive line. I think that's where they've had the biggest upgrade this year, at least through 2 weeks. Yeah. Week 1, I mean, they were getting so much pressure on Matt Stafford. The addition of Von Miller, they have a real Greg Rousseau's good. I mean, Ed Oliver, the defensive like they have talent on that line, and I think they're going to disrupt the passing attack of Miami enough in order for Buffalo to cover that spread.
I do think so. The one thing originally earlier in this week, I was actually picking the Dolphins. The one thing that made me change it was I didn't realize until I had seen this stat how good the Bills were. I know how good they are on defense, but in this one area in particular, which is 30-plus yard plays, and they've led the league in that, I think, each of the last 2 years, and by quite a margin. So
really?
I mean, that's what the Dolphins are going to be trying to do. And even with Micah Hyde out, I mean, you got to think, even if he's out, it's probably not that much of a factor, even though he does play safety. But you got to think they have, the formula to be able to limit that still. So that's why I am as convinced in this as I am.
I was not aware of that, by the way, on my Giants. Ed Oliver's not playing in the game. I still don't think it's going to make much of a difference. I still like the Bills to cover. Yeah. But thank you for letting me know. I like Ed Oliver a lot, by the way. I liked him in that draft. I didn't want us to take him in the draft, but I really liked him in that draft. So he's been really good for the Bills. But yeah, he will be out. Next up, New Orleans going to Carolina. We're familiar with Carolina. We played them last week. Panthers are getting 2.5 home against the Saints in a divisional battle, NFC South. Let's see if this is the first game we disagree. I'm curious to get your take.
Okay. So I think, honestly, this one I haven't had my mind entirely made up with. I am going to go with the Saints to cover. I do think that they had the game last week. They had it, and then emotions ran high, and, I think they need to reel themselves in, and they're just going to play some focused football this week. Alvin Kamara is going to get more and more touches. He hasn't gotten a lot of touches this year. I think they're going to, really commit to him on the ground and through the air. I think Alvin Kamara finally goes off this week. And for that reason and that reason alone, I'm taking the Saints to cover.
I was back and forth with this game as well. I don't like either team. I'm very low on the Saints this year. I've seen a lot of people that are high on the Saints. Saints did not impress me week 1 when they barely beat the Falcons, I think, by 1 point. They did not impress me last week. Panthers haven't impressed me either. But because they're home and because I'm getting 2.5 in a toilet bowl type game, we're going to disagree on our first game this week. I am going to take the Carolina Panthers getting 2.5 home. I think they're going to find a way to keep this game either close enough or just win it outright for me to get this win. I don't love the pick. I don't love either team in this matchup. I'm not a fan of the Saints or the Panthers, but give me Carolina getting 2.5 at home.
I could totally see Baker getting him into a position where Eddie Pinheiro kicks the game-winning field goal. I just don't trust Eddie Pinheiro to kick the game-winning field goal and actually make it. So
that's true. Good point, man. Good point. But I'm going to say they win. Maybe it makes the Giants look a little bit better too. So hopefully Carolina wins that game and Giants fans feel a little bit better about that win. But I hate both teams. Speaking of 2 teams that I hate, these 2 teams are trash. We've got the Houston Texans going to the Bears, and this may be the only game this year where the Bears are favored. The Bears are favored by 2.5 at Soldier Field, taking on the Houston Texans. The Texans, surprisingly, have played pretty well. They tied the Texans. They lost by 7 last week to a Broncos team that a lot of people had as one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the AFC conference. What do you think?
I think actually that the Broncos, oh my gosh, the Texans players are playing a lot better than you would think based on
talent.
But yeah, actually, I think they're doing well in spite of the coaching. Is what I'm trying to say with Lovie Smith. I think Lovie Smith has no idea what he's doing over there right now. I'm kind of shocked. He's a veteran coach. He's been around the league for a long time. So you see, like the first week, for example, they're running Rex Burkhead, and everyone had their dreams crushed when Dameon Pierce got like 5 carries. And then last week it was, like 16-ish carries with Dameon Pierce, but it was all Dameon Pierce, and that was all the amount of times that they rushed in the game. And you think about it, it's kind of ironic because they're playing the Bears, who they're not throwing the ball at all. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy you got going there. I think those two coaches are going to come back to reality and have more of an even attack, both in through the air and on the ground. And I do think that Justin Fields is the more talented quarterback, and I do think that David Montgomery is the better running back. So I'm going to go with the Bears to cover.
You're going to lay the 2.5 home Soldier Field. Second game, we disagree. And maybe I'm buying too much into Houston. Again, don't love either one of these teams. Was neck and neck for me as well, much like the last game. But Houston, so far to me, they're playing tough. I know the Bears had an impressive win week 1. They came back to reality week 2. We'll see the adjustments that both of these teams make. But when you got two really bad teams, I'll take the team that's getting the points. That's the way I look at it. I'll take the 2.5 points from the Houston Texans, and we'll see if they can pull up an upset against the Chicago Bears. But wouldn't be surprised either way. I think both of these teams stink, and wouldn't be surprised if either one of them have the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft. Katrik, man, thank you so much, man, for the 99-cent super sticker, man. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for being such a great supporter on the channel. And Andrew, stand up, new member. Welcome to the squad, man. I appreciate you for being here, man. Thank you very much. But yeah, just two really bad teams. Good call in terms of the adjustments, though. I do think both of those teams will look to open it up this week in terms of the passing game. They haven't ran a lot. They're going up against a bad defense, so I do think they'll try to open it up a bit more. And maybe that will be a bit.
But that's not going to happen.
What'd you say?
I wish we could say that about the Giants opening it up, but that's not going to happen this week.
No, not this week. But I think in that game, I didn't get a chance to see what the over-under was. I think if I had to, I think it was 40.5. It was low, right? It was. It's 39. Yeah, that's a game I would not be shocked at all if it goes over.
Really?
Because like you, I do think they'll open it up a bit. So I think I actually like the over more so than anything else in that game. Mm-hmm. Next up, Minnesota versus Detroit. Vikings favored by 6. That game is in Minnesota. Divisional matchup. Vikings favored by 6. That's an interesting one for me. Mm-hmm. What's your take?
So what we were talking about before with Minnesota secondary, I think that actually kind of changed my pick. And I know it's it's a team game and not one or two players out make or break the season or a game individually. But I just think that the Lions' offense is so unexpectedly high powered right now, especially with DeAndre Swift absolutely going off. I mean, last week he averaged 10 yards a carry. I think he's leading the league in yards per carry right now. He's having the startings of a monster season. I love him. Amon-Ra St. Brown, unbelievable. I can't believe they got him in the 4th round. I am going to take the Lions to cover. I still have Minnesota pulling up the victory, though.
Yeah, I am going to be in agreement with you on the Lions covering. I don't know who's going to win. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Lions win. But I think it's in Minnesota, right? Let me just double check on that. I'm pretty sure it is. Let me just double check on that. Yes, the game is being played in Minnesota. So I'd probably pick Minnesota to win if I had to make a pick. And the over-under is 52.5. I would not be surprised if that goes over.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that how good Detroit's offenses looked the first 2 weeks and how bad Minnesota looked last week. I think that's going to be a high-scoring affair. And I will lean towards the Lions. I wouldn't be – if I was going to make one pick this week, like if I was like, I want to pick an upset, maybe I want to go money line, get good odds. I think it said that the Lions were plus 260, so you're almost getting 3-1. That's the game I'd pick because I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Lions win this game. I'm not comfortable in saying that, but I am pretty comfortable in thinking they're going to cover it. The Vikings defense looks putrid. Their secondary looks horrible, and the Lions offense has looked surprisingly electric through 2 weeks. So we'll see.
Good for them, man. The fans deserve to root for something. Good for the Lions fans. I'm happy for them.
The other thing I'll say, Nikki, it'll be interesting. This is the first game this year where the Lions are going on the road. They opened up their first 2 games at home. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Maybe they look a little different on the road, but I am fairly comfortable in picking them getting the 6 points.
Yeah. Me too.
Next up, the Jets taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. This game is being played in New Jersey, MetLife Stadium. The Jets are getting 6 points at home against the 0-2 Cincinnati Bengals.
I actually might be going to this game tomorrow. My buddy, who I told you last night, He's a diehard Jets fan. He sent me a selfie through iMessage, and it was him and Saquon that he just ran into.
Yes, I saw the picture. That was awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm just like, dude, what? that was pretty cool. He has season tickets. Actually, I got to sit in the seats at the Jets-Giants preseason game because it was a Jets home game, and it was second row, right to the left of the bench. And so, like, Saquon was walking right there. Evan Neal. Actually, I asked Casey Kreider to take a selfie with me, and he gave me the finger because they were in the middle of the game. So I don't. That was pretty funny. Yeah, I'm going to take the Bengals to cover in this one. I think that they're desperate for a win. The Jets' pass rush is nowhere near on the level. They have the talent, but it's young talent. It's nowhere near on the level of guys like Micah Parsons and T.J. Watt that the Bengals had to deal with in weeks 1 and 2. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a beating for the Bengals.
We'll see. I mean, if I was a Jets fan, I'm definitely pumping my chest out this week. You guys had a great come from behind victory. Tip your cap. I always root for the Jets when they're not playing the Giants, and hopefully you guys pull off a stunning upset this week again. But I look at a Cincinnati Bengals team, Nikki. I look at a team that is desperate for a win. They're 0-2. They cannot get off to an 0-3 start. It cannot happen.
Yeah.
They're playing on the road. Is it a little bit of a letdown for the Jets coming up a win like that, or are they going to build some momentum? I definitely have concerns with the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line. But like you said, they're not versing nearly as big of a threat in terms of the pass rushes last week with Micah Parsons. I think this is the week where Burrow starts to gain some confidence, where they start to get that offense back on track. If you're a Jets fan, I picked against you last week. You guys surprised, so you should be happy if I'm picking against you again. Yeah. I will take the Bengals, and I will take the Bengals to cover the 6 points. I think Burrow gets it going. I think they put up a lot of points in that game. I think the Jets will score some points as well. Cincinnati's defense hasn't looked great either, but give me Cincinnati between 10 and 14 points.
I will say, I got a little tip for fantasy. If anyone is Tyler Boyd and they're looking for somebody to fill a hole, Tyler Boyd, this is the week. The Jets' outside corner duo right now is probably top 3 in just production with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. They're balling out right now. So you're going to look for Tyler Boyd to be being targeted in the slot, going against guys like Brandon Eccles and
you may disagree with my pick. Then I do 3 of these a stream. I throughout the games. I do the prize picks, the sponsor that it's over unders on props. This is my first one. I like the over for Jamar Chase going against the New York Jets, 77.5 yards. You can check out the sponsor at prizepicks.com. And I think I went 2-1 on these last week, so it's hit or miss. But I look at it like he's going up against a younger secondary. I think Chase is due for another big game, and I do think the Bengals are going to open it up. So I like him to go over 78 yards.
I think I would have taken him on the under.
You're going to take him on the under. So you think they work more the slot?
Yeah, I do.
We'll see. We'll see who's right and who's wrong on that one. But regardless, we both like the Bengals to cover that.
Yep.
Next up, Titans taking on the Raiders. The Raiders traveling to Tennessee. Another desperate game for both teams. Both teams coming in at 0-2. Titans are home. Just got killed against the Buffalo Bills. Do you think the Titans could bounce back against the Raiders, or do you like the Raiders in this one?
I like the Raiders in this one. Like I said, I think that the Raiders' defensive line has to get going at some point, and going against the lackluster Titans offensive line right now, it's pretty banged up. I think this is a get-right week for the Raiders. They're going to be pissed. They're hungry. You know, they had the game in their hands last week, and they got to start now. And the Titans on defense, I'm not sure who's in and who's out, but guys are banged up. Like Buzz Dupree is dealing with the hip. Christian Fulton, I'm pretty sure, isn't playing. They got some injuries they're dealing with over there. So I'm going with the Titans, with the Raiders in this one.
Yeah, let me just double check. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going with. I did it before this. Yeah, I picked the Raiders as well. Both teams are desperate, so I can't say that it's a must-win game for both teams. And the Titans are at home. But to me, the Titans just haven't looked the same. Since A.J. Brown's been out of the lineup, obviously they only put up 7 points last week. They just haven't looked the same. Do I think Henry will be better this week? Probably. I think they established the ground game a bit more. I don't think the Titans are going to get embarrassed or anything like that. But I think the Raiders are just too talented. They're 0-2, but I think they played the Chargers week 1, if I'm not mistaken. So they're 0-2, but they're still a good football team, in my opinion. I still think they're a playoff threat. And the Titans may be falling off a bit. They had the loss to the Giants, in which they probably should have won. They missed a 47-yard field goal. But regardless, they lost to the Giants, and then they doubled up by an absolute destruction against the Bills. We'll see if they can bounce back this week. If the Titans are going to win, it's going to come down to Henry, because the Raiders have a pretty high-powered offense. Henry's going to have to chew up the clock, control the clock. So they have a chance. But I like the Raiders. I think the Raiders going into the year were probably around a 9 or 10 win team. So if I think that, this is a game they're going to win. They're not going to get off to an 0-3 start. They find a way to win and cover on the road. So I think we've only disagreed with 2 games so far. Yeah. Last week I disagreed with 5. So we'll see where in the end what our final predictions are. Next up, you got the Washington Commanders taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is a fairly big spread. It's 6.5 in Washington. And I know the Eagles have looked impressive. Don't get it twisted. But they barely beat the Lions 38-35. Washington coming off, a loss last week, though. What do you think? 6.5 divisional game in Washington. What's your pick?
I don't want to do it. I really don't want to do it. But I'm going to take the Eagles to cover. I really am. Again, I think it's going to be more of a similar type game to how Washington's game last week went when they played the Lions. I think that, the Eagles might run away with it, and then Carson Wentz threw a couple late touchdown passes to make it not look as bad. I think they lost by 9 points last week. It was like 35 to 20. Oh my gosh, 26, something like that. I think something a similar score there. So yeah, I'm taking the Eagles to cover.
All right, before I make my
pick, Washington's defense right now might be the worst defense in football. So yeah,
this is my second prop pick, by the way. I like this: Eagles team sacks over 2. I think they're going to go over that. I look at a strong defensive line, and I look at Carson Wentz, who is notorious for holding on to the football times too long. I think the Eagles will go over the 2 sacks. So that's my second prop prediction of the week. But I'm going to take Washington, getting the 6.5 points. Divisional game, I could see it going either way for sure. I could see the Eagles blowing them out. But I think Washington will keep it relatively close. I could see the Eagles being up by like 10 or 11 and Washington getting a backdoor cover. I'm very confident that the Eagles are going to win. I just think they're a better football team regardless of it being that it's played in Washington. But because Washington's at home in a divisional game, I think they'll keep it fairly competitive. Wentz a little extra motivation going up against his former team in the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to come down to Washington being able to keep that high-powered offense off the field as best they can. We'll see. I don't think Washington's defense has as many holes as Minnesota does, so I don't think the Eagles are going to come out there and throw for over 300 yards or whatever they did in the first half last week. I think this will be a somewhat competitive game, but I do like Washington getting the 6.5. I'll take the Eagles by about 4 or 5 points, but give me the Eagles to win, but Washington to cover.
Actually, I was doing score predictions earlier in the week just for fun, and I actually said 42-35 Eagles is what my score prediction was.
Yeah.
I think it'll be that high scoring.
Yeah, we'll see. Next up, Chargers, Jaguars. This was originally 7, if you see in the top of the screen. It has since changed to 3. The Chargers are favored by 3 at home against the Jaguars. There's a reason for that, Nikki, in case you guys have been sleeping under a rock. It looks like Justin Herbert is going to be out for this game. Justin Herbert, one of the, top 5 most talented quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
So him not playing is a big factor. What's your take?
So because Justin Herbert isn't playing, I am going to take Jacksonville to cover. If not, then I was going to take the Chargers. But
would you have taken the Chargers -7 with Herbert playing?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. He makes that big of a difference.
He absolutely does. I also think the reason I might actually think that the Jags are going to outright win, but I'm taking them to cover. Their defense right now is very hard. Not that it's a great defense, but it's actually pretty hard to game plan for. They have a lot of moving parts over there. They're moving Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen all over the place, among others. Yeah, they're moving him all over the place, just like they do with Micah over there in Dallas. So it's they're a fun defense to watch if you're a film study guy.
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm taking the Jaguars with getting 3. I'm gonna take them to win. I'm picking the Jaguars to win this game outright on the road against the Chargers. Maybe I'm reading too much into last week because, like you said, the familiarity with the Colts. They've always played really good against the Colts in Jacksonville. But for me, it's more so about Herbert not playing. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to grow this year throughout the course of the year. I think by the end of the year, people are going to look at Trevor Lawrence as a guy that they could say, all right, this guy definitely has top 10, maybe even top 5 potential. Like he may be on that trajectory. I think he's a really talented quarterback, needs to grow, had a disaster of a situation last year, got rid of their head coach. I think he's in a much better spot this year. And I think Trevor Lawrence will get better over the course of the year. But this has a lot more to do with Herbert than anything else. The fact Herbert's not playing, I think the Jaguars are going to keep this game close. And I'm actually going to pick the Jaguars to win outright, but I'll take the 3 points. I'll take the Jaguars getting 3, and I'm gonna be in agreement with you on this one. I'm taking the Jaguars. They've looked pretty impressive the first 2 weeks. I know they lost week 1 to Washington, but they kept that pretty close. They were in that game start to finish, and then had a really impressive win last week. So without Herbert, I think it's a major, major difference in that game. Next up, we've got. I just want to make sure. I think that's the next one. Let me just make sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Tampa Bay, Green Bay. 2 heavyweights. two heavyweights in the NFC Conference. Tom Brady, home against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, was originally a pick'em. Now it's a 1 point, at least according to CBS Sports. The Tampa Bay Bucks are favored at home against the Packers by 1. What's your opinion?
This is a very, very difficult game to pick, even with the Bucks having their entire starting wide receiving core out. Their secondary right now is playing like the best secondary in football. They're playing like, it was the 2021 playoffs. It was when the Bucks went on to go win it all. Brady's first year there. They're playing that well right now, and especially against a receiving core that is green, to put it politely, for the Packers. It's difficult. But then again, if there's a quarterback in the league that's going to be able to pick them apart, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. I am going to take Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is 1-3 right now against Brady in his career, and I think it's time he bumps that up one, get inches closer to having a push for the career.
I can see this game going either way, for sure. The Bucs haven't looked great coming out of the gate, at least offensively. Defensively, like you said, they've looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
They've done a great job on the defensive side of the ball. Tampa Bay's home. I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I think this is the second game where no, I'm not the second, the fourth game rather, that we've disagreed. I think we disagreed on this game, the Eagles game, and then we had a back-to-back where we disagreed. We'll get to it at the end.
You disagreed on the Eagles game?
I took Washington.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah, getting 6.5. You took the Eagles minus 6.5.
Okay.
I'm going to take the Bucs at home against the Packers, and that means Green Bay gets off to a 1-2 start if they lose this game on the road. But listen, Tampa Bay's defense has looked impressive to me, and I think Brady's going to progressively get better as the season gets going. I thought he'd get off to a little bit of a slow start, didn't play too much in preseason. They're home. The Packers look much better after looking horrible week 1. Seems to be a pattern the last couple of years. And by no means do I think the Packers are going to fall off. I still think they're winning the North more than likely. I still think they're making the playoffs. But this is a tough game. This is a tough game in Tampa Bay. Game could go either way. But
Russell Gage is their number one receiver. And they just signed Cole Beasley off the street. He was probably working at Walmart. I don't know, man. I couldn't do that in good conscience knowing what the receiving core looks like right now.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, the Bucs defense has to show up and keep them in the game, but I'm gonna put my faith in Brady at home to find a way to get a win. Get a win there. Green Bay, you out of your mind, fool? Jesse says. Let's see. Vikings take care of that division this year. Ooh, I'm not believing him. I did like Authentic. I did like Minnesota
at the beginning of the year. Right now,
I do not like their defense right now. I do not like their defense right now. And
he's a leader of that defense.
I won't be shocked if they win that division at the end of the year, but their defense looks really bad through the first 2 weeks. And would you be shocked, Nikki, if the Lions win that division?
Yeah,
you'd be surprised.
If you're asking me from this point in the season, could I see it? Yes. But if you're going to ask me before kickoff 3 weeks ago, I would have said,
of course
you're out of your mind. They had the same.
Based on what you've seen the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think that the defense is only going to get better. And I think that their offense right now is, they're flying. They're a top 5 offense right now. They're flying. So I could see it from this point in the season. I could see it for sure.
I'm still going with Green Bay, but
absolutely, me too. Yeah, I'm still taking. I wouldn't bet money on it, but
the Lions seem decent this year. They seem better than I thought they'd be. Let's put it that way.
As long as you score more points than the other guy, you win. So
yeah,
that's what they're doing.
And they put up 35 points against the Eagles. The Eagles have a good defense.
Yeah.
So they've looked impressive. Next up, Arizona versus the Rams. Where's this game being played? I think it's being played in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. I think it is. Yeah, it is. It's being played in Arizona. So Arizona is getting 3.5 points at home against the Rams. Rams 1-1, had a nice win last week. It was better than the final score, like we said. They won by 4, but they had a 17-point lead. I think it was going into the fourth quarter. What do you think here? Divisional matchup. Cardinals getting 3.5 at home against the Rams.
I think I'm going to take the Cardinals to cover. Actually, in this one,
I'm going to agree with you. I'm taking the 3.5 points, and I'm not usually a big Cardinal guy, but Stafford to me still looks a little bit off his game. It's a divisional game. The Cardinals are home. I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think the Rams win, but I'm going to have them winning by a field goal. The Cardinals definitely showed some good fight last week coming back, but I don't know. To me, they still have some holes in their game, but I think they keep this close enough. I don't think either team right now is playing their best football, so I could see this game, being a little sloppy from time to time, but I think the Cardinals will keep this game close enough to cover that spread. I'll take the Cardinals plus 3.5.
Yep.
But I got the Rams winning. Let's see. Rams. You like the Rams, Jesse? We'll see, man. We'll see. Both teams look weak, in my opinion. I know the Cardinals had a nice comeback last week, but neither team looks great right now. Let's see what we got. We've got Seattle taking on Atlanta. This game is being played in Seattle, one of the tougher places to play historically in terms of a home field advantage. Seattle's 1-1. Geno Smith looked really good in the first half, week one. Yep. Then he kind of came back to the pack a bit. They lost last week. What's your take on this game? Falcons, Seahawks.
I am taking the Falcons. I think that their running attack right now with Cordero Patterson that's what they got going for them. I think Drake London looks pretty good, and they're going to start to get Kyle Pitts involved at some point. You think so?
What's going on with that dude? I got him on my fantasy team. He's got like 30 yards.
Honestly, who did the Falcons play? They played the Rams, and they played.
Let me pull up the Falcons schedule real quick. Falcons have played the Saints, I believe. Yeah, played the Saints 27-26. They lost. Then they lost to the Rams 31-27 last week.
Good coverage linebackers on both teams. That's what I would attribute it to. That'd be my guess. I didn't break down either of those games. So I really don't like watching the Falcons at all. But that would be my guess. It's going to happen eventually. I always used to think that sometimes when Odell would start off to a slow start, you'd be like, oh, did he fall off this year? Just like in 2016, we made the playoffs. It was garbage the first 3-4 weeks in that Ravens game. Boom, 222 and 2 touchdowns. So it's only so much that you can hold down a guy before he explodes. Kyle Pitts is that talented. I think it'll happen. I think you'll be all right with Kyle Pitts. And I think this is a team where you can take advantage of, especially when your Pro Bowl safety Jamal Adams is out right now. So this is a game where they can definitely take advantage of Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I'm looking at Seattle right now. They've scored a combined 23 points in 2 weeks. Scored 7 points last week against the Niners. Their quarterback situation is horrible. They are home though, right? So that plays a factor for me in Seattle. I hate both teams. I think both of these teams stink. I think both of these teams in the end will probably be picking in the top 5. A lot of really bad games this week in terms of like 2 really bad teams going up against one another. You've got this game. You have looking back, there was like 2 other games where it was 2 really bad teams. The Bears and Texans are both horrible. And then even the Panthers Saints is not a very good game. So there's a lot of weaker teams, it seems, going up against each other this week. But I think it's a good game. I think it's a competitive game. And because Seattle's at home, I'll actually take the Seahawks. I'm not very comfortable in saying that at all. At all. I don't like either one of these teams. I think both their defenses stink. I think their quarterbacks stink. But somebody's got to win, Nikki.
You're backing up the man who sat down Eli Manning. I can't believe it right now, Chris.
Listen, Geno Smith stinks. But I don't think Marcus Mariota is very good either. So I will take Seattle at home, laying 1 point. And I think that's the 5th game we disagreed on. I'm really excited to hear the games you're most confident in when we do the bonus picks at the end. But we're up to our second to last game before we get to the Giants, who, of course, play on Monday Night Football. Really excited to get your opinion on that game. But before we get to that, you got Denver taking on the San Francisco 49ers. This game in Denver, 49ers traveling to Denver. Like you said earlier, Denver so far has been your most disappointing team in the NFL. Niners bounced back nicely after Trey Lance went down with the injury. Garoppolo looked pretty strong. Niners were actually my preseason Super Bowl pick out of the NFC. I might want to take that back a bit, but they did bounce back nicely week 2, so we'll see if they can continue to do that. What's your take on this going to Denver, Mile High, 2 1-1 teams?
I think that Denver right now has a few key injuries on defense that might show up a little bit. I think you're going to see an explosion of George Kittle in this game from San Francisco. They're going to be pounding the ball like they always do. They know Russell Wilson, and I think I'm going to take the Niners to cover in this one.
We're in agreement here. And I actually like both teams a lot preseason. I still think the Broncos will be good. I still think Russell Wilson needs to get it together. I think you could certainly argue the Niners are at least better right now with Garoppolo in there. Trey Lance definitely has a higher ceiling and maybe would have grown into a better quarterback than Garoppolo at some point this year. But I think right now, early in the year, Garoppolo makes the 49ers a better football team. And I still think they're one of the most complete teams in the NFL. They have a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. So I'm going to take the Niners. I think the Niners go into Denver and win that game outright. I'm still a believer in the Niners. I like the way they bounced back last week. And I'm gonna have them disrupting Wilson, creating a turnover or two, maybe winning that game by 4 to 7 points. But if I'm getting points with the Niners, I'm taking it. Give me the Niners to get the 2-1. And then finally, Nick, you've been waiting for it. Giants Monday Night Football.
Didn't we open at -2.5?
We did. Now it's -1. And last week we opened at -2.5 also. I think by the time kickoff went, the Panthers were actually favored by a point. So there's been big shifts with these Giants lines recently. So right now, Giants are a 1-point favorite. What's your opinion?
I'm sticking with the superstitions. I'm going to take Dallas to cover in this game. Also, simply from the mere fact that I think we've lost our last, 10 primetime football games. Daniel Jones has yet to win a primetime football game. He should have 2, thanks to Evan Ingram and Darius Slayton. But I digress. And I just think that, with Dallas's pass rush, and I know it's just that one guy, Micah Parsons, but he is that one guy that can wreck a game all by himself. He's playing that well right now. He's not Lawrence Taylor. Don't get it twisted. I'm scared to see Evan Neal on the trying to block Micah all by himself. I hope I don't have to see that one time this entire game. But due to the fact of that, and also that Daniel Jones doesn't seem to have his head in the game right now, I think from a vision perspective, I think he's feeling pressure before it's there, much like Joe Burrow, and his eyes are coming down. If you haven't seen that clip of Dan Orlovsky, anybody, go look at it, because I couldn't say it any better. I love Dan Orlovsky. Daniel Jones is having wide open guys left and right, and his eyes are going straight to the ground. I will say, Chris, great point by you. It is good news that there are guys open in the first place, because that is very, very different from the year.
Yeah, and Dan Orlovsky was right. There was 3 or 4 reads that Jones just missed last week.
Yeah, we should have won that game by 14 points at least. And it's unfortunate. We still won. That is a game that we normally end up losing when we have a really huge advantage like that with 2 early turnovers. We still found a way to win, which is good, which is different from the past. But we should have won by at least 2 touchdowns in that game.
But what I'm going to say is, for everybody, like you just said, like everybody's flipping out that he's missing these guys. In the back of my head, I'm like, well, there's a good chance Jones may not even be the long-term answer. What I'm at least equally concerned with this year is the offensive play calling in the scheme. Yeah. And the fact that those guys are running wide open, that didn't happen last year. So that's a good thing.
Both tight end touchdowns. There's no one around him for miles. I was like, Chris Myrick was open that much. That's all scheme, not him. How did he get open like that? Daniel Bellinger, there wasn't a linebacker within 10 yards of him. And we know
name the last time that Jones had 2 gimme touchdowns like he's had so far this year to those tight ends. That goes to the play calling. It's not like Chris Myrick's running great routes, or Daniel Bellinger's running great routes.
He's never had tight ends get a huge amount of separation. Not since Shockey, in my opinion. My image that I have in my head of a Giants tight end, catching touchdowns consistently is actually Larry Donnell. And when he went up and caught one over Navarro Bowman against the Niners in Sunday Night Football. We've always had tight ends, just use them as guys just to go up and get it, like we wanted Kenny Galladay to be. Now we can actually scheme a slow tight end open like Chris Myrick. It's unbelievable. That speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one, though. I think it should be a really close game. You took what's your final score?
My final score is 17-14 Dallas.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. The over-under is 39.5, and I think it's going under. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I see 2 limited offenses, especially early in the year for the Giants, as I thought they would be. I think this offense will get better. I'm going to continue to say that because it's what I believe. I said it 3 months before the year started. Expect to see a slow start to this offense this year for at least probably the first 6 weeks. I'm going to say it right now. First 6 weeks, I expect a slow offense from the New York Giants. I think then they start to turn it up. That's just my prediction. That's what I believe. I think they're going to continue to try to rely on Saquon Barkley. I think they're going to continue to wait until that offensive line continues to mature and Jones and these wide receivers get a better rapport. That's my honest prediction. And then I do think they will open up this offense.
The only way that we ever, for the next couple of weeks, because I'm in agreement with you, that we ever score anything over between 21 and 23 points, so we start scoring 24 plus, that's like Saquon having a monster game where he breaks 2 long touchdowns. That's the only way.
He's the guy. He's like week 1. How he was
next week, Saquon's going to have a week 1, like a game like he did week 1. The Bears' rushing defense is really, really not it right now. I think we'll be good for next week with Saquon.
But all that being said, I think the same thing about the Dallas offense. I look at the Dallas offense. They don't have their left tackle. They're starting a rookie there they did not draft to be their left tackle. So he's playing out of position. I know he played tackle in college, but they didn't envision him being the left tackle this year. They got a new right tackle, not quite as good as La'el Collins, but he's still good. And you got a quarterback at Cooper Rush, who now you have a full game's film on him in this offense this year with these players. And I think Wink Martindale is going to come up with a masterful game plan. And when you have a quarterback like Rush, similar to a guy like Baker Mayfield last week, that may not be fully confident and comfortable in the offense that he may run, and you have a defense like Wink brings where he's bringing pressure from all over the field, you don't know where it's coming from, that is going to disrupt Cooper Rush. Now, obviously, you got to worry about the ground game. You got to worry about Pollard coming out of the backfield. But I think we're going to have a very similar defensive game plan to that of which we had against the Carolina Panthers last week. I think you're going to see a lot of 3 and 4 safety sets because we know our linebackers can't cover Pollard. Schultz is not in this game as well, which is a plus for the Giants. That's a guy that you definitely got to worry about in the passing game. On the Giants side, though, no Tony. It doesn't look like it, at least. No Wan'Dale Robinson. And we don't know, where's Kenny Golladay? Is he going to show up this week? Is he going to get some snaps? We'll see. But your guess is as good as mine in terms of who's going to get, the snaps offensively with the wide receivers.
I do think that Cooper Rush will have under 200 yards passing. I think what's going to happen, I think that Micah Parsons is going to have a strip sack, and it's going to be a not good field position for the Giants. And that's how they're going to be able to get ahead in the score a little bit. I don't think they're going to be able to go down the field. I think Wink is coming. I think Wink's licking his chops right now. I think he can't wait to get his defense out there and show the world, what.
I'm with you. I think Wink's going to have another great performance this week. I really do.
I do. I just think that Danny's going to,
You think there's a game? You think there's a game where Jones struggles?
Yeah, I do.
And I do too. Here's the thing. I don't think he's going to struggle because I think they're going to do the same thing they've done the first 2 weeks. I think they're going to manage the football game. I think they're going to rely on Barkley.
As a passer, no, I don't think he'll struggle. I think he's going to get strip sacked at least once.
I could see that with Parsons for sure. I think the Giants are going to have a lot of 2 tight end sets. They have to. You have to help out Evan Neal going up against Micah Parsons. So I don't expect them to be chucking the ball down the field. Now, there may be an opportunity here or there, much like week 1, where we hit that one big play. I could see Trayvon Diggs getting burnt for one play, especially if they're overcommitted.
He's the only one who can.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you an X factor in this game for me. Darius Slayton. Slayton. I could see this being a game where Slayton hits one big play.
Was he on the injury report? What was he listed as?
He played last week. He just didn't play. I mean,
really? Right. Yeah, he had what? I think he also had 3 snaps or something like that, right?
I think I could see Darius Slayton having one big play in this game because being a vertical threat,
division rivals.
If Dallas is going to be overly aggressive in this game, I could see the Giants hitting one big play in the pass game over the top. But I don't think they're going to come out and throw the ball a bunch. It just doesn't make sense going up against this Dallas defense, especially with as limited as an offense as I think they're going to have on the other side of the ball. I think you try to control the clock much like last week. We won the time of possession 36-24. You try to limit the turnovers. You win the turnover battle, and you find a way to get a win. It's sloppy. I don't care. A win is a win. That is the best approach for this game going up against the Dallas Cowboys. I know the people that hate the Giants, that hate Daniel Jones, they want him to throw 400 yards. This is not the game to want Daniel Jones to drop back with Micah Parsons and Evan Neal blocking him to sling the rock 35 or 40 times.
This is the game that you want Saquon to run the ball. Like all year, if there's one game, you want Saquon to run the ball 28, 29, 30 times this game. This is the game where you do want it. This is the game where you want Daniel Jones to only throw it 17, 18 times if there is one all year. You want to have the Giants be running Saquon right at Micah Parsons with Daniel Bellinger right in there trying to chip. You want to run at him because you want him to be second-guessing himself that he just can't pin his ears back. Because if Saquon's running left side and Micah's on the right side, if Saquon's running left, Micah is going forward every single play. You have to have him play on his heels a little bit and not know, okay, they're going to run it right at me. They're running it right at me. That makes him second-guess himself. You got to slow Micah down. And I think that's what Brian Daboll needs to do in this one if we're going to come out with the win. Trust me, I want one. I actually feel more confident about us winning this game than I did the Carolina game. I'm still picking against us, though.
I picked against this in my preview video just because that's something that I'm doing now until such time they win. But on this show, I picked them last week. So, like on this show, when I'm doing like my picks against the spread, I'm going to give my honest opinion who I think is going to win the game. I have the Giants winning this game. I really do. I have the Giants winning this game. I'm not super confident. I'm not going to be super confident anytime I pick the Giants this year because I do think it's a growing process. I do think that we're going to have some bumps in the road and we're going to have some unexpected losses. We're going to have some unexpected wins. But Brian Daboll thus far has done a great job, especially making halftime adjustments. I have a lot more faith in this coaching staff. I have a ton of faith in Wink, and we're going up against a backup quarterback with a rookie left tackle, much like last week when we went up against the rookie left tackle with Ekwonu. Saquon is more talented than the guy we're going up against this week with Smith, and you got Rush in there.
Just I think they'll get a sack this week.
I think the Giants are going to dial up the blitz this week. I think I don't want to say how many sacks we're going to get because who knows? Rush is going to probably try to get the ball out quick. We're going to get a ton of pressure. We're going to get a ton of pressure in this game. I think they're going to be ultra aggressive. I think Rush will try to get the ball out quick. But because of the aggressive nature of this defense, I think we are going to have an opportunity to create a couple of turnovers. On the other side, what I worry about is Dallas. If you look at Dallas's defense, the last 2 weeks, they have not been nearly as aggressive as they were last year, and they've not created nearly as many turnovers. They only created 1 turnover in the first 2 weeks, and they've only blitzed 18% of the time. But I think a lot of that gets attributed to the fact they were playing Brady. We all know Brady destroys the blitz.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they're going to be much more aggressive this week. I think they're going to blitz a ton, which, like you said, makes you worry as a Giants fan if we have to throw that Jones may fumble the football, especially if he gets hit within a couple of seconds. We know the interior offensive line has struggled. Evan Neal against Parsons. But that being said, like I said, I do think there's going to be an opportunity for a big player too because of that. The aggressive nature of this Dallas defense this week, it may lend itself to a couple of big play opportunities for the Giants. And if they're there, the Giants are going to have to capitalize in this game. But it goes back to the ground attack. Barkley on offense is going to win or lose this football game. And on defense, Wink's going to have to come up with a great game plan. Of course, super excited for Kayvon Thibodeau. But I do think the Giants are going to win. I think it's going to be really close. I got it Giants 20, Dallas 17. Give me the Giants by 3. And real quick, we're going to go.
I like it.
Yeah, and we're going to go over the games we disagreed on. We disagreed on the Giants game.
Really quickly, Chris. I will say the one thing that drives me crazy is because Bad Dog always says, right? He always goes, we know that that's in there with Daniel Jones. We know it's in there. So what drives me crazy and what isn't more true or what isn't a better example is it's the perfect example is you see when Daniel Jones threw the pick to Amani Hooker in the red zone, I couldn't believe he threw it because he was staring him down for like 4 seconds, it felt like, because I couldn't believe he still threw it. I mean, no one.
That was, and I like some things Daniel Jones done this year. I've tried to be as fair as I can with Daniel Jones. That was one of Daniel Jones' worst throws of his career.
Yes, but so what's so crazy is in that same game, the Sterling Shepard 65-yard touchdown. That was his 4th read on that
and
play.
And he couldn't even step into the throw.
Yeah, it was his
like people on Twitter like, oh, he underthrew him.
The whole field, and he's able to see Shep wide open down there, but he can't just look off Saquon for 1 second when he's blanketed. Like that's what drives me nuts is the mental consistency.
Well,
play consistency. The mental consistency isn't there.
That's been the story with Daniel Jones last week. Yeah. You know, we talk about the 3 or 4 misreads. He should have had a pick 6 before the half. But then you see some special throws, and you're like, can he put it together? He made the really great throw to Sills, especially when you went back and watched the old 22. That was a great throw where it was about a 20-yard gain. He made 2 really good throws to Richie James on that touchdown drive. Yeah. One was like a third and 10, and then the throw across his body.
That's a shame because I believe that if Daboll was hired when we hired Judge, I actually believe that Daniel Jones would have been our franchise quarterback for the next 10-plus years. I think it's too little too late for Daboll to really fix him as an entirety. I think there's too many bad habits in there. I think there's too much doubt. I think there's too many old schemes that are clogging up his brain and fogging up his memories and stuff like that. I think that if Daboll got there and Daniel Jones' second year, he could have turned him into something. I just think it's too late right now.
He may very well be mentally broken. You know, I definitely see the physical tools with Jones, but obviously, you know, odds are against him. We'll see. We'll see if he get better throughout.
Not even him being broken, just there's not enough time to teach him all the information he needs.
Yeah, especially being that he's not under contract after this year. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to the game. I think it's going to be a really close game. But I want to go over our picks, and then I want you to give me your 3 most confident picks. Okay. So we disagreed. I just want to make sure I got this right. We disagreed on the Cowboys-Giants game. You took the Cowboys +1. I took the Giants -1. We disagreed on the Niners-Broncos. No, I think we agreed on that, actually.
Yeah.
You had the Niners, right?
Yeah.
The Seahawks we disagreed on. You had the Seahawks. That's 2. That was the Seahawks -1. You had the Falcons +1. The Cardinals, I think we both agreed +1.5. You had the Packers. I had the Bucks.
I did have the Packers.
So I have the Bucks -1. You've got the Packers +1. Chargers, we both took the Jaguars. Eagles game, I took Washington. You took the Eagles. It's going to be fun. We're going against each other on a game this week. I got Washington +6.5. You got the Eagles -6.5. Raiders, Titans, I think we both had the Raiders -2. Mm-hmm. Bengals, Jets, we both took the Bengals. Lions, Vikings, we both took the Lions +6. Texans, Bears, I took the Texans. I think you took the Bears.
I did take the Bears. Yep.
So that's our fifth team. Saints, Panthers. I took the Panthers. I think you took the Saints. So that's 6 that we disagree on. Bills, Miami. I think we both took the Bills.
Yeah.
Patriots, Baltimore. We both took Baltimore. And Chiefs, Colts. We both took the Chiefs. So now, Nikki, what I need you to do, we're going to go one by one. So give me your first game of your locks. These games are worth 2 points. Give me your first of 3 games that you're most confident in this week.
Chiefs, Colts, easy.
Chiefs, Colts, and what was that spread? It was
5.5. Was it?
Yeah, 5.5. 5.5. You got the Chiefs, Colts. That's funny. I almost don't want to pick it now because I want to have different games for our bonus picks, but that was one of my bonus picks, so I'm not
for it, man. Go for it.
That was one of my bonus picks. I am confident in that game on the road that the Chiefs are going to cover that 5.5. So that is one of my bonus picks. I like that one. So we're in agreement. Give me your second one.
The Saints over the Carolina.
So you got the Saints over the Carolina, which I actually took Carolina in that game. I'm not going to have it as one of my bonuses, but you're that confident in that game. You like the Saints.
I think the Saints scored a defensive touchdown in this game. Yeah.
Okay, that's like exactly what I'm confident. I'm going to give my second confident. Baltimore laying 2.5 home against the Patriots. I like the Ravens in that game to cover the 2.5 points. I think they win by at least a field goal. So I'll take Baltimore as my second lock. Give me your third.
I'm kind of second guessing myself on my last one, on my last lock. All right, I'm gonna go.
Refresh my audio. Oh, I didn't know that the audio is it better now, guys? I didn't know the audio was going out. Sorry, guys.
I'm gonna go Eagles. Eagles.
You got the Eagles?
Yeah.
Oh, how are you picking the Eagles, man? You're killing me, dude. No, I don't. No, I'm kidding with you, man. You got to go with
it's literally the matchup. It's literally the matchup. They're just Washington's defense looks like the worst in the league right now.
I am gonna go. This is a ballsy pick. I'll tell you what. When I look over these games, I'm not very confident in a lot of these games. I really wasn't. But if I got to pick one of my 3, I'm gonna go with the Niners. I like the Niners a lot this year. I'm gonna lay the 1.5 on the road against the Broncos. So I'll go with the Niners. I'll go with the we both agreed on the first game as our lock, which was the Chiefs. And then I will go with the third game. I almost picked the Bengals against Jets, but I didn't do that. The third game I said it said the Ravens.
I can't believe neither of us picked the Bengals versus the Jets.
I'm just gonna pick them as a lock.
Oh yeah, as a lock, I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, but if I was gonna pick a 4th lock, that would be it. But
yeah, me too.
Those are gonna be my 3 games. You pick yours. I'm excited to see how it plays out. The audio goes in and out. All right, I'm sorry, I didn't know. So maybe it's the microphone. I'll switch the microphone for the stream with Bad Dog. Yeah, I've been trying to use the better microphone on these streams, so that might be it. I'll switch to the crappy microphone because that one doesn't seem to go in and out as much. So we'll switch to the crappy microphone for the live stream tonight. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We'll see how Nikki does this week. I'm 1-0 against my subscribers. We'll see if Nikki could knock me off. Are you confident after seeing the picks I made?
Yeah, I am. Yep.
Matter of fact, let me change the mic real quick just to see if it's better.
Yeah, go for it.
So you guys could let me know. Let's see. I'll change it right now. We changed it back to the MacBook mic. So maybe that's better. The sound quality is probably not quite as good, but maybe that's better. I'm going to use that tonight on the Bad Dog stream. So you're confident, man. You're confident. You think you're going to knock me off and get that hat?
I'm not confident. Actually, my last lock, because I went back and forth 3 or 4 times, but every other pick, yeah, I'm confident. Every other one.
All right. We'll see. We'll see if I get the 2-0. Like I said at the top of the stream, if I win at any point 3 in a row this week, the guy that comes on the following week will have a chance to win a jersey. But Nikki says that's not going to happen. I'm going to get my hat.
No, either I get the jersey or nobody does. I can't let that happen.
Looking forward to it. Thank you guys for all the support you guys always show. Enjoy the college football today. Enjoy the NFL tomorrow.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. I'll be live with Bad Dog tonight, so come on by for that for Talking Giants. Then I'll be live tomorrow night for the night before stream. I'm going to have JD Sports on the channel tomorrow night. And Authentic, you're more than welcome to come on as well if you want to come on tomorrow night. I see you're in here as well as we talk about the Cowboys game coming up. I'll probably be live around 8 or 8:30 for that. And then, of course, we'll be live streaming the game on Bad Dogs channel on Monday. So thank you guys for being here. Let's go Mets. John, great call by you. They just started. That's actually what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to watch the Mets game. And we got 10 games to go there with a 2.5 game lead. We'll see if the Mets can hold on. Looking forward to calling some playoff games on the channel. But, guys, have a great rest of your day. Let's go Giants. And we are.